So, a little bit about accent sounds. Well, what we mean by accenting a sound is we take a part of the ambient soundtrack where it's required that the ambient sound interacts with the characters or needs to be seen in sync with the picture.
Okay, so let's talk about accent sounds. Now, as I said, this is where a part of the ambience has to be in sync with the picture. And so what that means is that where we might have rain everywhere, and let's go back to that, let's have a look at that. We have rain, of course, we have rain, but if you look at where the camera's moving under a bunch of umbrellas at this point. And so what we want to do is we want to sweeten the sound of that rain. We want to accent the sound of that rain. And so we want to give it a little bit more realism as far as what it is that we're looking at. We want to kind of interact with that ambient sound. So one of the first things that I would do to accent the sound of that rain is to add the sound of rain under an umbrella. So if we listen to this particular audio clip that I found, the rain is much more close. This is actually a clip, I've called it umbrella sound, but I think it's actually a clip of sound on a tent. But what we want is for the rain to become far more overhead, a lot more close. The idea that it's actually falling onto a certain surface above your head. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the rain sound is sort of everywhere. But what we want to do is we want to kind of move with the camera. So what we're going to do is, while it's not particularly synchronous as such, it is relating to the position of the camera, the position of the audience to the rain. So what we're going to do is we're going to accent the rain sound by giving it a little bit more realism as to where we are within the scene, if you take my meaning. So you see right now, we know that it's raining, but now we're hearing what we would hear if we were moving with the camera. So it goes beyond just kind of a random ambience, but now it kind of draws focus to where we are in response to what we're seeing on screen. The other accent sound we're going to want to do, this is a big one. This is the opening shot. Now, this is a part of the ambient sound, but it's synchronous. It has to actually interact with what we're seeing. It's this tongue here. Now, that is a part of the ambient soundtrack, but it's an accent sound because it's synchronous. It has to actually interact with what we're seeing. We see this lighting effect. We see the dragon's tongue moving and we want to hear it, but we can't just put some sort of random buzzing in the background because we can see it right here. So this becomes synchronous, and therefore it's an accent sound within the ambient sound. The way that I've done this is that I just found an electronic buzz sound, and I chopped it up and I chopped it in sync with the picture. And you can see if I do this, let's move this over here. It's just the sound of a buzzing electronic sound, but it kind of works, It has that sort of, I could blow up at any minute, don't touch me and you'll get electrocuted kind of vibe to it, which is what you want for a cyberpunk scene. Now we're already listening to, let's come out of here, let's isolate this sound, let's get rid of it. So all we have is this sound here. Now, I think that's quite effective. And if we put it, so we've got our natural sounds, we've got our rain and steam, we've got our cultural sounds, which is our music kitchens, music and kitchen sounds. We've got our mechanical sounds, which I'll have. We've got our signal sounds, which is our distant siren. We've got our human sounds, which is our foot and vocal walla. And now we've got our dragon sound. And we've got the umbrella sound as the camera moves in. Let's see what all of that sounds like. So that's starting to work. That's kind of cool. That's starting to feel like we're there, and that's what we're really after. Now, the last accent sound is this blimp, this kind of well, I don't know what we're going to call it. I'm going to call it a blimp. It's this guy right here, and I wanted a sound for this. Now, I didn't go deep into designing a sound for this. That's all going to come later. We're going to do a whole session on SFX later on. All I wanted was something that was going to kind of feel like we could accent the sound, that there was some sort of, flying big engine, something, something present at this moment. And what I found was this great, let's just, I'll show you. It's just the sound of a bus accelerating. It sounds like this. Right, which doesn't sound like much, but if you actually put that in sync with the imagery, it kind of works. Like there's something, starts to kind of, you get the feeling that there's something in the ambience that's sort of this big engine that's sort of kind of coming in. So if we have a look at it in context, it kind of tells the story. Now, I would earmark that for some designed sound. It would be, that's for SFX, but we're going to talk a lot about that later on. But let's move on and talk a little bit about Foley and ADR.